Hello, everyone. I'm Jill Bloom, publisher of Roofing Contractor, and welcome to everyone watching today. Thank you so much. I am excited to be here with Art Eisner, the editor of Roofing Contractor, and we are extremely honored to be speaking today with Ken Kelly, the president of Kelly Roofing out of Florida. Hello, Ken. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you. Pleasure to be here.
One of the things I appreciated learning about you is you certainly have one of the most original roofing origin stories. Tell us a little bit about how you got into the business.
Yeah, so I got in the business like many people who have followed a family member. I watched my father struggle for years, being an excellent tradesman. He knew roofing inside out. What he didn't learn was the business side of the business. Now, my dad, funny story, learned roofing in prison. And there's some stories that we can actually talk about now because he's recently passed and there was no statute of limitations on some of the crimes that he committed. So we just didn't let anyone know about the true nature of his learning the roofing industry. He learned it in prisons in New York City, Sing Sing, Attica, and those places, and then ran into some trouble again with the law. And the state of New York said, listen, we're going to put you away for good or get out. We don't want to deal with your kind. So he grabs my mom and he says, let's go somewhere. She's working in the hospital in New York City, St. Vincent's Hospital, downtown Manhattan. She goes to work that night. She says, talking to a patient, she says, my crazy husband says we need to leave. And where do you go? Like, our family's here, right? And at the time, it was either in a place like Alaska where they were building the Alaskan pipeline, or there were some cities in Florida that were doing quite well. And the patient, who, by the way, his name was Kenneth, patient says, if you're going to move, go to Naples, Florida. It's the most beautiful place in the country. And sure enough, that's where they ended up. And when their first son was born, me, they named me after that patient. But here's the funny thing. So dad comes down and he does roofing and painting, because those are the two trades that they taught him in prison back when rehabilitation was a real thing. And because he had worked in roofing outside of the incarceration, he was a journeyman roofer. And so when he came down into Southwest Florida, he's the only one who actually had credentials to be a real roofer at that time. We're talking early 70s. And so he made a very good reputation doing quality work. The problem was he didn't know the business side of the business could not grow outside of that, being the spoke or being the center of the wheel. Everything in the company had to run through dad. But here's the pivotal moment when everything changed. A few weeks out of high school, after graduating, I was getting ready to go to college. And I was working with my father on the roof like I had done the summers prior. And I watched him fall off the roof in front of me, going face first. It's only a single family, single story home, slipped on some loose granules, only an 8-foot fall. But he put his hands out to break his fall. And when he did, he crushed all 28 bones in both wrists. I saw this happen. I jumped off the roof behind him, did the roofer roll, came up to him, saw how much pain he was in, called 911. And that's where things really changed for me, because I had to take over the family business. At the time, we only had one employee, John Chuck. John Chuck went by two names because you didn't know who was after him at the time. Whoever he had the warrant for, he would go under the other name. He had two IDs. It was, great guy. I learned a lot from John Chuck. And John Chuck quit. He's like, I'm not going to work for this 17-year-old punk kid. Right. I wouldn't either. I don't blame him at all. And we're actually really good friends today. So it's funny how that works. But I took over the family business. And for the first time, I had the opportunity to play business owner, because I really didn't know what I was doing. But I had a lot of theories from what I learned in school. And it was time for me to implement them.
Given that upbringing and really the trauma that you witnessed, how did you still stay in love with roofing? How did that not kind of turn you away to do something else, given especially your skill and love for technology?
So there's an unbelievable amount of responsibility that comes with having your father in the hospital, having two siblings and a mother, depending on you to bring in money to keep the family going. And at the time, and I'll say it again because it was very much how I felt, I was playing businessman. I thought I was cooler than I was. And with that becomes ego, becomes mistakes, becomes egg on your face, embarrassment, all that goes along with it. And it was those early days when I made plenty more mistakes than I ever should have. I mean, Greg Wallach says that he was the kind of person that couldn't just make a mistake once. He had to make it multiple times. Well, I was the Greg Wallach, right? I guess it runs in the roofing industry because I was the same way. I didn't learn from the mistake the first time. I had to do it multiple times, and it had to hurt really, really bad before I realized it was something that needed to change. But it was those early days that really forged a lot of the values that we have today, like almost 30 years later. It's really interesting. You know, Dad had the company since 1972. I took over in 93, and which now I've had it longer than he had it, if you look at the time, but we're going on almost 50 years. And those values that Dad instilled to me and you know, that I picked up and ran with, they're still there today. So it's funny how they forge who you are.
Well, you've definitely come a long way. I mean, look at Ken, you've taken all the things that you've learned, all the mistakes you've learned, you've turned those into such successes. I mean, look at what's in your background there, the 2019 residential roofing contractor of the year.
Yeah, incredible honor. And I remember when that was announced and we were in the audience, and it was just almost surreal when our name was called out. We knew that we were nominated, but we didn't know that we would be the one. And the interesting part about that was after we went on stage and there was the generous donation, thank you again to BNP and Roofing Contractor for the donation to Hurricane Dorian relief.
Oh, yeah.
The Angel Flight. And then, you know, of course, the photos and the award on stage. But afterwards, we went and found an empty conference room in the hotel, and we called our father, you know, my brother. And at the time, this is when Dad was really starting to get ill. He was battling lung disease, probably from hot tar, probably from smoking, a little bit of the smoking that he did early on in his life. And he wasn't able to join us, unfortunately. He was at that time bedridden. And boy, I'll tell you, we all sat there and cried when we told him. This is something he created, right? And it's great to see the kids pick it up and run with it and go from a small family business that really struggled from week to week, finding themselves and eking out a living, to being recognized as the top roofing contractor in the nation. I mean, that's just an unbelievable journey.
Tell us, how did you start working with suppliers and building your relationships with, and distributors too, how that came to be?
Well, I can tell you what not to do. When you don't pay them, life gets miserable. And I've been down there. I've been down the road where you've been cut off from the supplier and you're begging for just one more order, and that one more order is going to catch you up so you can pay your balance. It never does, but you tell them it does. But you know, it was a funny situation. I've had suppliers believe in me when I didn't believe in me. Right? I didn't think that I'd be able to catch up with balances, and they helped out, and I did. And what I've learned is that there are times where you put all your eggs in one basket, and there are times when you don't. And what I mean by that is there's a lot to be said where a smaller organization gives all of their work, whether it's material purchases or whatever, to one supplier or one manufacturer. Because even though you're small, you're on someone's radar. And when you're on the radar, you get little extras. You get in the certification programs, you get discounts on pricing, you get a priority on shipping or deliveries. There's a lot to that. And then when you get bigger and not one supplier can provide all of your needs, because it would literally be every truck they have 24/7, well, then you have to spread things out a little bit. And what we learned is it's easier to still continue to put your eggs in one basket with that supplier as long as it's a single product. Like we do all of our shingles with one supplier. We do all of our tile with a different supplier, metal with a different one, our low slope roof system with another one. You know, we try to continue to have those relationships open. If I needed to, I could go to any of them and they would help me with other items. But there's simplicity in knowing if it's a shingle roof, the only person who messed up this delivery was this supplier. You know, if I needed to return something, it's going back to that supplier because that's all we use. From billing, you know, from every angle, it's just easier. And then we can get on the rebate program. We can, you know, do the things that help us succeed. And when it comes to manufacturers, the manufacturers have done such a great job creating these programs to where they allow contractors to rise above some of the competition and provide extended warranties, better certifications. They have stronger product knowledge. They give free education. Utilize them. There's no real solid college class or set of courses that we can go to that teach you how to be a roofer. But there is the NRCA, there is Roofing Contractor Magazine, and there's your local supplier and manufacturers who are constantly giving away free trainings, lunch and learns, conferences and seminars, webinars. It's out there. Take advantage of it because it really helps you to excel and succeed at a much faster pace.
During our tour, when we were looking at our Contractor of the Year candidates for 2019, I distinctly remember obviously being in your shop and really being floored by the story you told, in particular about what you called at the time the best decision you made, which was to actually bounce a check to a manufacturer. You've got to tell us the story.
Yeah, so sometimes you have to take risks, right? I signed up with a manufacturer called Duralast, and they make a low slope PVC roof system. And at the time, we were very good at residential. This is in 1999. And the only commercial or low slope roofing systems that we did were modified, just because it was easy, readily available from local distribution, but you were pretty much like everybody else. And I responded to Duralast reaching out, looking for contractors. I think they were just sending out postcards. And I found that there was a lot of advantages with that system. And they said, the only way we will sign you up as a contractor is if you go to our training, which was in Saginaw, Michigan. And by the way, we have our annual sales seminar coming up in Orlando, which is really close. You should attend. And if you attend the seminar, because the seminar was first before I could schedule my training, if you attend the seminar, we'll go ahead and we'll make you an authorized contractor, knowing that you're already signed up for the training and it's only about a month delay anyways. It'll allow you to start selling these roofs. So I said, I'll be there. I didn't know how I was going to get there because I didn't have any cash at the time and I was behind with bills. And I knew I didn't have a credit card because nobody would give me a credit card. And I made the decision to go to a check cashing place, write a check knowing it would bounce so that I had cash to go to Orlando and rent a hotel room and attend this seminar. And I did. And I'll tell you, the first morning I come out of my hotel room, lost in this big resort, not quite sure what to expect or where to go. And right as I'm closing my door, the gentleman in the room next to me, Sandy Sanderson, was closing his door. And I kind of did one of these, like, which way do I go? And he says, he saw that I had the roofing shirt on. And he says, you going to the seminar? I said, yes. He goes, follow me. I know where it's at. So I followed him, walked in, huge ballroom, breakfast is being served. He says, hey, grab a plate, come sit with me. And at that table were some real legends in the industry. Don LaFernie, you had Gene, Jim Bush. I mean, all of these guys who've just been legends in that, in the Duralast world for years and years and years. We're sitting at this table, and it was funny. They're talking about creative ways to structure your organization so you could save money on taxes. I had never in my life up to this point had a tax bill because I'd never made enough money to get out from underneath the minimum. And here these guys, I'm saying, this is really crazy that people actually have that kind of problem, right? That they have to strategize on how to save taxes. And I said, well, maybe someday. Let me just listen some more. And I took lots and lots of notes, got their phone numbers, and continued to reach out to them, and still friends with all of them today. Some of them have since passed, but to this day, I still see them at the seminars every year. And I'll tell you, when you sit in the audience and you look at this massive production, millions of dollars goes into this show, and they really take care of their contractors. And they taught me that it doesn't matter the size of the organization. If you use their tools, if you follow the way that system should be installed, you will put on an unbelievable roof that will last an insanely long time, and they'll give you the help to get your better clients. And that's what I did.